So some of you guys might not know when I was really heavy on the McStay case and I was like the only one on Chase's butt. Let me tell you some details in that case that made it a little bit more easier to figure out who did this. But there was something I was looking at. Because if you guys know Tim from Equifax or Equa Search, he does the search and rest. Oh my God, my hard drive is totally full. So hopefully I can get through this. So he did a video of the inside of their house, right? It was the crime scene from hell. But they acted like they didn't see anything in the house, and it was like crime scene city. There was like a missing futon cover. There was something like a table looked like it was moved. There was food left out. There was the bed flipped over. There was all this crazy stuff. But Tim and them walked through the house with the brother, and they looked around going, I don't know, we don't know, blah, 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 blah. But then I viewed the footage and I go, oh, there's this, that, the other, this, that. What we need to know is, do they live like slobs? Because this is not a good sign. Because they might, maybe because they have kids, they don't clean, kids throw things around, blah, blah, blah. Well, lo and behold, that was the crime scene. And Chase kept going through the window, and I was talking about how he tried to pin the brother in the story and a couple of things in the story. And one of the other things in the story that was so prevalent in that case was the phone calls. Because one thing that Chase always did is always answer the phone for um, McStay, okay? So every time he called him, he always answered. There was never a time he didn't talk to him. There was never a time that he didn't take his call and didn't call back. And there would be no time in hell that he wouldn't know where he went. And he started playing up in the public. This was a public case at this point. Um, that he would always know where he was at because they're partners, right? So I caught wind that they both had white trucks. The brother was saying it too. They're all, Chase has a white truck. But then they were trying to say the brother has a white truck. And then they were pulling out, this was the craziest thing. They were pulling out pictures of the brother digging a hole, like trying to make it look like he's the one that dug the grave. I told everybody, I go, I can dig a hole too. And I dug a really big one in my mom's backyard by myself. So that does not point guilt because somebody could dig a grave, okay? So then he started manipulating people in the public on the forums and this other stupid criminal guy. And I'm the only one over here talking sanity. And I was like, oh, guess what? When they have video footage, they made an assumption, which threw the case off. They made tons of assumptions. And so but at the same time, besides going through all that, there was another case that I was looking at. And not a lot of people know I was looking at this case. And it was another mysterious case. And it's about this guy named Shane. And he went missing. And there's some weird things in this. And again, I don't feel, I feel the same way that I did on that case where I was like, I feel weird like calling Chase out, but I still did it anyway. And then I started looking at another potential serial killer. There was another case going on too. But on this case, let me run it down for you and why I thought it was suspicious. And it could just be that. And these are some of the questions you want to ask, okay? Regardless of the fact. Because if somebody's innocent, then they have an answer for these things. These two brothers go out for the evening and they both leave. I've read two different stories on this. They both left at the same time. One of the initial stories was this brother left first and then the other one left after. The one that's alive left after, or they both left at the same time. It's important to know the timelines of these things because when you're looking at timelines, because on the McStay case, it was really important on timelines to see if you could roll somebody in or out due to the amount of time that they have between the time that law enforcement gets involved, okay? So was reading this case at around the same time. And I was like, oh my God. Something's fishy. I mean, right off the bat, something was fishy. It wasn't, I don't know. I thought everybody would pick it up, but there actually is a few people questioning it, okay, right now. But this was not a big case. This was not even in the media. It was like some weird local Louisiana case that popped out, and I don't know, it caught my interest. Don't know why. And I remembered it to this day because I was looking, I go, oh, right off the bat, like the brothers fishing. That was just my first read through. But let me talk about why I think why initially it went like this with me. Because okay, they're both together. They're like the last scene together, right? Now allegedly there's a witness that possibly seen this guy, but you know what I mean. Maybe. But it may just lead into some other stuff. I don't know what it could be. I don't know what the tail off would be in this case. So they're both at this bar together and then they leave. Allegedly on here it says they both left at the same time at 12:30 a.m. He was on his way home. He allegedly lost control of his car while driving a windy stretch of river road, and his car flipped and ended up in a ditch between Klein Road and Marrero Road. The 36-year-old managed to climb out of his wrecked car. I'm gonna fucking have a fit. I'm gonna lose my mind. Okay, so this vehicle flips over. I'm assuming they have evidence that he was actually in the vehicle. Um, so your questions are always like, is there DNA that he was actually in his vehicle and it was him that flipped the car? Just that would be number one you'd want to know. I know it sounds stupid. It may, whatever. You just want to make sure this is how it went. So he's in the vehicle, it flips over. Is it him for sure? Okay, blah, blah. I don't know the answer to that. I know they said they found a shoe. Just because you find a shoe doesn't mean he put it there. I'm just saying, this is just how the cases go. You can't take everything at the face value. Like, you see a shoe there, doesn't mean that he's the one that put it there. No. Just like if you find a body in your car, doesn't mean that you put it there. It's in your car, but it doesn't mean you did it. Brett found out. This is the brother. And this is where it was like, ding, ding, ding. I don't know what the hell here. Okay, so Brett found out about the accident when him, the brother, called Shane. Shane's the one that got in the accident. Shane's not calling his brother for help. Allegedly, Brett called him mid-accident. Another thing about the case is nobody knows when the accident happened. You don't have a timeline because none of us know when it happened. The brother can't know when it happened. It could have happened right away, right when he left, right? And he could have been there for 20 minutes going on like that. We don't know. There's just a thing in here that nobody knows when the accident happened. I mean, you can get a rough estimate, but nobody, you know. So, this is the question you need to ask on this case. Does Brett normally call his brother every time they drive home from a bar, from any other situation? Is this a normal occurrence? If it's a normal occurrence, then it may not be as odd as it's coming off. But it's not the brother calling him for help. It's the brother that left the bar calling him while he's in the middle of an accident. But it says a few minutes later to see if he made it home. Well, do you guys know the addresses of these people? And so that's in question too. So I was just like, well, wouldn't they be driving together on the freeway or something like that? And they're don't they live kind of nearby or something? Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm just wondering because this is what you have to look at. So like, I don't know. Well, how do you call somebody a few minutes later? It doesn't take them a few minutes to get to their house. So I'm like, why would you call somebody a few minutes after you just left the bar? I don't know, but apparently this is what they were doing. So I was like, yeah, I got a question there, you know what I mean? So then there were some conflicting statements in the media, somewhere revolving around this stuff right here, and then it was removed, and then I just kept watching it because I'm like, maybe they'll figure it out. Years go by, maybe they'll figure it out. Years go by, they still haven't figured it out. And you know what that usually means in a case, like most of the time on these cold cases, is that the initial story is off for some reason or another, and we're just going to try to figure it out. Nobody just disappears, okay? Another thing that people thought he had amnesia. And I'm like, well, according to the brother, when he called, he was totally alert and he knew who he was talking to. But we can only go by a statement made by a person, and we don't know what the hell right here, okay? But this is the alleged statements from the brother. He knew he was talking to his brother. So he's not having amnesia, he knows, and he's calling for help to get somebody to come and get him because he flipped his car over. There's no sign of amnesia right there. I mean, not in the moment. So he's sound of mind right here. That's the alleged. And phone pings. Okay, so phone pings. Asked about phone pings. Yes, so what happened in the McStay case was really interesting, and I spent a lot of time on that little portion right there, which drove me nuts. But it helped us in the timeline. So the phone pinged in a location, what was it, 10, 20 minutes from the house or something? It was some weird location, which is now believed that that's where he just threw the phones out. And from that point, Chase calls the phone. And so I don't know if it has any correlation to this case at all. It's so strange that these similar things are there. And mud. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of things here that have some things that we were really hardcore looking at in that case that really helped us out to figure out, you know, what the hell happened here. So they he called his own phone. I mean, he called the dead guy's phone to make it seem like he was calling him and he wasn't there, right? What he did was he basically took their bodies back to Victorville, I guess, and then called the phone or something weird. There was some like setup here to make it seem like Joseph was alive and he calls his phone and he doesn't answer, or I don't know. There was some weird, this story is so old I'm forgetting the case now. But there was a call here. So then from that time we get a timeline of 2 hours missing, which was wonderful because I was like, does he have time to drive there and back to Victorville from there, from the San Diego portion? And then we found out, yes, he did. And then we were questioning about these toll places, and people were like, yeah, they don't even stop you on that thing. So I was like, oh, I guess he just drove some bodies through the toll. I mean, through these like passage things. It was really weird. But anyway, he did that. Or did some, yeah, had to, because he had to go bury them in Victorville. So, we have some similar things here. So somebody made a phone call. Like it says a few minutes later. I don't know if this is a typo from the person writing the story. I would find it highly suspicious if somebody just left a bar and then they just called a few minutes later and he's already in an accident. Well, how did this guy get home? He's not even home yet. Like, I don't know. That's a little weird. So then what happens is, then he allegedly talks to him and he tells him, I was in an accident, like some weird thing, but he doesn't call him. But he sounded alert. He sounded like he knew he was talking to his brother, according to him. And then he says he arrived at the scene 20 minutes after Shane had crashed. But we don't know what time Shane crashed. That's the other thing. Tell me this, because the information I looked at, how far does these brothers live from the daiquiri shop? And when do they leave? Time frames when they left. And you're looking for timelines. And this is to rule somebody out because let's say he had nothing to do with it. It just so happens to be that he called during this accident. And so then we could look at that and just go, okay. So to me, it looks fishy. It sounds fishy. And then it's like, then you have some time because it takes him a certain amount of time to get home, right? The brother. And then from that point on, you have to add in, and then 20 minutes to get back here. So we need a timeline, like a more exact timeline of how much span of time we have here from the time of 12:30 to this 20-minute drive to the crash scene. because that's missing in this mathematical thing here. We don't know what time that is. We just know 12:30. He says a few minutes later. If I go by this, it just says a few minutes later and then 20 minutes. So it would make you think at 1 o'clock in the morning he showed up at the scene. But it takes the other guy some time to get to his home. And how far is that, right? And then he just calls the brother when he gets home. But again, you have to ask the question, is this a normal occurrence that they do that? Is it? Is it not? If it's not, then you have to look at it as a peculiar action, which is what happened with Chase's case, okay? So then another thing in this that is unlike the McStay case, I had a lot to go on. They gave us a lot of video. I had photos. We had aerial shots. We had Chase talking. In this case, the brother doesn't talk much, which I wouldn't either. But he wasn't talking much, and then they didn't do much after the case. Like they kind of, I mean, they were looking for him. They did a few searches, and they kind of, I don't know, wishy-washy on this case. And I have no video footage of the crime scene. Like what I want to see is like the same thing I seen in the McStay case on the in the mud. So in the mud, in particular, in their case, but thanks to Daily Mail, because I think it was Daily Mail, somebody took some major shots of this scene. And when they did that, all of us caught like this weird thing going on. So in the scene in the shots, you could see multiple like track they were tire tracks, but they were varied in size. It was kind of weird. So we're looking at the remnants of him bringing some type of truck in and then possibly a digger. It was like really weird, like these weird tracks, right? So it tells you some information because mud has a way of doing that. And so I have nothing to look at. I'm going off of text saying, we found a shoe in the mud. And I'm like, well, did somebody walk there and put it there? I have no idea. Can you show us a picture of this crime scene? Because all I have is this weird imagery in my head, but that's not helping us out because we don't see it. Is there something you guys missed that was in the mud? Is there another person that was walking by? Are you assuming it was just his feet and it's somebody else with him? I have no idea. So we don't have it. And it could be somebody else in the story, just somebody else, okay? So I'm trying to figure it out. So we don't have that. We don't know how the shoe got in the mud. They're claiming it's his shoe, but I have no idea how it got in the mud. I have no idea how the car spun out. And then at some point they claim somebody drove by and asked him if he needed a ride. And then he said that he's waiting for his brother. This may have happened. So if that did happen, all it will do is kind of validate, like, oh, at least we know he was alive and he was well, like right here. If he's saying that to that person, he's not out of his mind, you guys. It's not amnesia. He knows he's waiting for somebody and he's telling them. He didn't just lose his mind like later. Usually, and I was trying to look this up. Usually, if they get in an accident, they get amnesia and they lose it. They do it right away when they hit their head. And so at least in the current state that he was in, he was vastly aware where he's at, vastly aware somebody's coming to pick him up, talked to his brother, knew who he was. So this is the statements that we're getting from the brother and allegedly from a passerby. Okay, so there's the hint. So if that happened, the person that asked him told him the brother's coming. So, okay, then it takes the brother 20 minutes, and they're saying that when he finally shows up, he's not there. After all these years, guy, nobody found this guy. And there's just some crazy things in the story before we even go on to somebody got amnesia and wandered off and died, okay? Or is in some weird, I don't even know how it got there to this thing where they're wandering around. And no, it's not that comment. I don't know why somebody posted that. I guess just to feel, I don't know why about this. Yeah, but I was asked about phone pings. Let me tell you this. I was not aware that phone pings were happening in the case. So to me, um, when we think of phone pings, we think of places where either A, somebody wandered off and they're still with that phone, or B, the phone was thrown off far away from where the other person is. And I was not aware of that. And no, they didn't put a lot of anything in the public about that. And if they did, I would have been looking at it because that's what happened. I spent way too much time on Bonzel. Okay. Um, but yeah, because I was hoping that they could find the phones in the case, and they did searches, they couldn't find it. It's just too vast, I guess, of a thing to do it. Mostly after the phone dies. So in this case, is probably the same, and maybe a similar thing where a phone could get tossed and it throws you off, right? But if you're going to be talking about wandering off anywhere, then yeah, then I would be concerned that he wandered off and then he was at wherever that phone is at. So yeah, I mean, we're not totally ruling that out, but they did multiple searches in these areas. It doesn't mean that they might have missed something, but they have scavenged this area about a million freaking times. But they never showed us the picture of the crime scene. They didn't show us any of these things. There's no explanation why the brother would call him right in the middle of an accident. It makes it, and then they said that he said that he was coming for him. So maybe he did come for him, and I don't know what happened in this portion, but we need timelines. Like, we don't have any to go, oh, well, maybe that wouldn't be a possibility because from the time to this to the time to that, because that will help him if he doesn't have time to do that. Okay. That's the only person in the story where you go, what happened here? But outside that, yeah, an external, it would be, it's less likely an external thing happen. It doesn't mean it won't happen. The chances that he would jump into somebody else's vehicle like that and then not be taken to a hospital or to his home is less likely. I was talking about the randomness of that because even I've had to jump into a stranger's car because my car broke down in the middle of nowhere. The chances I'm going to get a serial killer is low, but it doesn't mean it won't happen. Um, And if there's no other cases in the area of missing men, then, the chances of that are even probably lower unless it's just somebody that hasn't been caught. But I'm telling you, that's kind of at least, it's not an impossibility. It's just less likely. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but there's nothing really pointing to that this minute. This minute. Then somebody was like, "Well, maybe you got ate by an alligator." Oh God. But since I'm not from the area, it was explained that that area is a little way too far away for him to just wander off to at that time. And then why would he, right? Like, it's just, you have to make up something in order to get him to be that ridiculous. Was he massively drunk here? Well, that's another question because if you're leaving a bar and you DUI, would you want to go missing? I mean, you almost would want to go missing so you don't get arrested. Um, Is there something else happening too? Was there any fight at the bar? Was there anything like that, right? If they got him so drunk and let him drive, like they should be held liable. I don't know what the hell happened here. So that's where we're at on the case. But like I said, for years, I remembered the case so well because it was like the first flag to me. I was like, this brother's weird. What was this? And then I thought, oh, he's gonna get arrested. And then like I go through this thing and there's people that are trying to defend him. So understandably so. But there is a ring of that seems off, okay? You can't deny it. You can't deny it. So that was one thing. Because why would you think he didn't make it home safe? Like, was there something that you knew that nobody else does? Like, I mean, it could just be because he knew he was drunk. Were they chasing each other on the freeway? Like, were they drunk driving, chasing each other, and some bad thing happened right here, and then they just tried to cover it up? Like, I have no idea. I don't know what the need would be to do that in the case, like, unless somebody else was in the car with them, and then they got out of the car and went into another vehicle because they didn't want to get caught. I mean, there could just be a number of things. But since there was a witness, a alleged witness, I can't go around the witness. If the witness is legit, then we have to pivot around the actual witness. It has nothing to do with the brother or anybody in the case. Like somebody claiming that they seen him. Was it him or was it the brother? It's really the definitive that, like, you have to make sure that the person claiming they saw somebody was the right person. And then we need a timeline from that. And then you can kind of go from there. And yeah, it might lead us to something else, like totally something else. So that's why I was like, we have to get around this weird part right here because it stuck with me for like over 10 years. Because this case is 2011. And I chronically check it, like thinking, oh, something get busted. Yeah, like a honest. So I was like, no, they haven't yet. So I was like, either A, they're totally overlooking it, or because somebody, Jimmy, gave some off information on it, and really throwing you off. That's what I was saying. A lot of the times these cold cases, they're thrown off because misinformation, purposely so, right? Or second, there's another factor that is there's another perpetrator out here, something weird, or somebody did accidentally fall into a situation because they were inebriated, but they were not so inebriated they didn't know who they were talking to, allegedly. And then even by the time somebody allegedly talked to him, he knew where he was going. So I don't buy the amnesia story. I could buy that he was drunk to hell story, but that's where we're at with the case. It's pretty crazy, right? Nobody just disappears. It's just you just don't have enough information right now to figure out what the whole bullshit happened. Yeah, but there's been cases where people wandered off and then they were deceased because he may be so inebriated, he finally passes out somewhere and then that's it. But why would he take off? He already knew he was waiting for somebody. That's the thing. He already knew he was waiting for somebody. He said he was. So he's not getting in the car with those people. He's not doing these things. So then he said exactly who he was waiting for. I think the problem is there may not have been video camera right there at the time, and unfortunately, and so you don't know who got him or where what he did there. And was somebody else in the car with them? Like, I don't know. It's just these questions. Like, just because the brother and them say that doesn't mean you go by the brother. The brother may be totally being honest right here, okay? But you can't. You have to take it with a grain of salt that in some of these cases they're lying or they're leaving out something purposely so. And you can only take it so far, it's not definitive, it's not set in stone. Like that may not be the truth. But it may be the truth, but you can't get there until you really fine tune those areas right there. And then you can come to the thing. That was the same thing when I asked about the brother in the other case, because I was brand new to the case and I just found out about it. And I was like, oh, so the brother or something. And then I got jumped on. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm getting jumped on. I got to figure this out. I got to start somewhere. So let me roll people out, look at their this, that, the other. And then I totally ruled the brother out. I was like, oh, yeah, it looks like Chase is trying to set him up, is what happened. And that is what happened. You'll figure it out. Like you could start anywhere in the case, but eventually it'll lead you where you should go. And then the dad kind of threw me off a little bit, but I don't even blame him because, like I said, the guy that he was talking about was extra shady, man. I was like, I don't know. Would they both be in it together? No, it doesn't seem like they even like each other. Um, it just happened to be there's just multiple bad people in the story. So this could just be like it's just coming up. But this is the thing that drew me back to the case is the brother's statements for all these years from 2011 to 2025. The brother's statements they haunt me. I was like they haunt me, and I don't think people understand it. Mostly if you're close in the family to look at it like that because they don't think of things like that, and it may not have happened like that. But I'm not in the family, so I don't have a emotional connection to him. I'm reading it from the perspective of other cases and things that I've gone through and how like it sticks out like a sore thumb. It does. But it just may be that. It just may be he just coincidentally called him in the middle of an accident and not vice versa. I thought I read it wrong initially, going, oh, Shane didn't call him for help. They said, no, the brother called him. And I'm like, exactly. And somebody else was asking that in the questions. They're like, how did he know he was in an accident? And somebody got smart and said, because he told him when he called. It's like the guy's having a hard time comprehending that the brother called him while he was in an accident where he didn't know he was in an accident, but the brother in the accident didn't call him. I go, yes, that's the problem. I go, it is bizarre, but it may just be that way, okay? But that is why it stuck with me forever because it's backwards and it's weird. It's almost like you could look at it like it comes off like a setup call. And but again, if there's an actual witness that can like legitimately say they saw them, not the brother, then we know for a fact he was there, you know. So we have to go off of some other scenario. But it's not a highly publicized case. So this one's a lot harder because um it's limited on what I can nitpick. There's only so much that they put here. But yes, no, I didn't know there was a phone ping. They said a phone ping for days. And I do think that's important. It depends where it was at. I was like, well, where was this phone ping? I actually don't know if I know I would bring it forward. Um, because I would look at the surrounding area where they're claiming it pinged. I'm assuming they're just holding that information close for whatever reason. They could be suspicious of somebody and they just don't have enough evidence for it. I think some of the hope in the case is that he's alive and has amnesia. But I'm saying I'm going to lean on it's unlikely he has amnesia. He seemed very lucid. Like he seemed aware and conscious when he's talking. He knows who people are and what he was doing and everything. Though he might have been drunk. Only, okay, so another thing in the story, if anybody helped him leave, I don't, okay, so we don't know if he had some additional issues that he was like, coming up to getting in trouble for anything. If there was some other thing going on here where he didn't want to get caught in which case, yeah, someone might start a new life like that. I mean, you really would have to, I would almost think that even if he did this, let's say he started a new life somewhere where some people want to run with that version of things. I would think that the brother would know about that and there was some sort of setup to this. But why did he crash the car? You're looking at something else. So there's a crashed car, so it's hard to set up a car crash like that without like almost killing yourself, like really almost killing yourself. Um That's sort of the MO here. You could have a situation. Did he? You want to answer some of these other questions. Is this an individual that showed signs of that ever, like prior to this incident? Because the crash itself is just it almost comes up like you got a drunk person or somebody that's unstable. Um, and then in which case that might be why you didn't find him because he went somewhere else. Purposely so, maybe. Yeah, so that's another scenario in the case. Yeah, so this is how I went through the mixed date case. It was just throwing out probabilities from the facts that we know. And then Chase would help me out by making oddball comments, so we don't have the same perpetrator. Like we don't have the same guy chirping away. Yeah, we don't know if the accident was purposeful. We don't know if it was like purposeful by him or somebody else, or if it was a DUI situation. Um, yeah, those are the things on the case. But there's an explanation for it, but the amnesia story's not following with me at all. It just doesn't appear that way. It'd be some other thing. That's my opinion. My opinion may not be correct. I said that on the other case too, but I was still correct. But I had to throw out some things I did not want to throw out to the public. But it was the read off of Chase, and I had to say it with the sexual assault thing. Yeah. It was the way he was speaking. And I was like, it appears that maybe he had some sort of thingy there. And then they said it, I think, in court. And I go, yeah, he tells us, like, as he's speaking. So we don't have this dialogue right here. The only thing is the weird dialogue from the brother. But then he doesn't talk much. So then to me, it's kind of like, you know. So, but there's some, I mean, less likely some of the other things, but it's not impossible that some of those other things were set up and he did those things. I can't say, but we need the crime scene. Like, it's easy. If I look at something, it's like, but it may not lead us anywhere. I may look at it and there's no other information from what they show us, but I don't have it. I don't, they didn't put this stuff out. But again, it may be for a reason because they're already suspicious of something. Or maybe they think it'll ruin the case. I mean, I don't know how it would. I mean, we looked at the Chase one like that too, so I don't know, but they didn't share it here. I just want to see it because I want to see if they missed something as they have before. So, I mean, by no means does it look staged. I mean, it doesn't look, does it? That's the thing. I don't know. I don't see it. So I don't see it. So I can't even, my brain can't even particularly have some, comment about what it looks like. Yeah, so an explanation to the brother calling him instead of the reversal is probably due to the brother knowing he was drunk when he left the bar to see if he made it home because he knew he was drunk. He knew ahead of time. If you want to go by the versions that they gave. But if you read this story outright, it could sound like he got into a car accident because he was drunk. And when he was talking to his brother, the brother states, if you take this, by everybody's word, he starts panicking because he doesn't want the cops to get him. That's why he's like, wait, hurry up, come. And one thing that may have happened here, which has happened on other cases, where the person goes hiding and they fall into some situation where they pass away. And yeah, so the injuries that they think he may have had extensive injuries, but he sounded coherent. So he's not having amnesia. He knows where he's at. He knows he needs to get picked up because he's, you know, waiting for somebody to get him and to be away from the scene. And so if that's the case, if we go by that angle, then you have like one of two things here, pretty much. Somebody went hiding somewhere and they just still haven't found him, which is totally something that could happen here. And or somebody did pick him up. The chances of somebody picking him up and doing something harmful is rare. But it is possible, I suppose, he I mean, we can make up some situation without a lot to go on. Like, somebody picked him up and they told him, "Do you need to go to the hospital?" And he's like, "No," because he doesn't want to get in trouble. And in the midst of that, he was injured and something bad happened to him. Could that have happened? And then they got freaked out. I mean, I don't know why you would be freaked out. I'd be like, I picked up this guy and he got injured and then he died. I wouldn't hide it. So that's one scenario. Another scenario, they got a predator out of nowhere. I think what's more likely in this case, if you guys remember, there was another case recently, which I helped push people off the guy that they were trying to point fingers at. It was interesting. This gay couple that was married, I think, got into a tiff and he called the police for domestic violence. And by the time the cops came, he took off missing and he didn't return. And people were trying to blame the husband. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense. And then they showed a video of him running away from the house. So it's impossible for him to have done something. And so we see him running into the middle of the night. So then they don't find him for months. I think it was like months, I think. And the family was blaming him and, claiming he did something. And they're like, I didn't do anything. And I've been cooperative and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I'm not seeing, they weren't being suspicious. Like, it was strange. I go, well, maybe they had another boyfriend, man. They took off over there to hide, right? What happened? Um, Said person got really depressed after the situation. I think they did something to solve, but was in the in the brush area in an area where they already searched like a million times. But for some reason they overlooked it. And so they were there the whole time, but they had passed away. And they had nothing to do with it, the person they were trying to blame. So in this case, I don't want to lead it to, oh, so and so did it. That's why I've been kind of holding off on like doing it because I feel like there's just something in it. Like, I can't make up that somebody crashed the car on purpose because it was too flipped over from what they were talking about. Um, but when I was placing myself in this situation, go like this. Let's take the story at its word because I don't think anybody can make up the car crash because it's too, it's not a fender bender. It's a flipped over car multiple times in this thing. Okay, let's say you got in this accident and you were totally high on drinking or drugs or anything, okay? And you're aware, and your first thought is, I don't want to go to jail. But why didn't he call his brother? Okay, so we still have a problem with this weird call thing right here. Because if this is what I did, the first thing I'd be like, bro, come and get me. You know what I mean? But instead, it's the brother calling him. Are you alright, dude? Oh no, I'm in the middle of an accident. It just doesn't come off right, like this section. I can't get past it. It's peculiar, okay? But let's just say that's what happened. Then he's waiting, and I don't understand who called who because it's like, it goes, after a few minutes after Brett spoke to Shane, his brother called him back. That sentence kills me, dude. A few minutes after Brett spoke to Shane, they're both brothers, his brother called him back. I'm like, who, what? I'm literal, so I'm like, After a few minutes after Brett spoke to Shane, his brother called him back. I was assuming they mean Shane called him back. Brett said, so this was important. Okay. Brett said he sounded panicky in this call, and he thought it was because he was shaken up from the car accident. And he wanted to make sure Brett was on his way, and Brett assured him that he would be there shortly. Yeah, he's a little panicky because if he's thinking about police or anybody coming, you would be panicky, right? But Brett doesn't say that in here. He's like, oh, I thought it was just from the car accident. You wouldn't be thinking that he's drunk and he can get arrested if a cop comes. Okay, so I don't know if that's some indicator that he's just not thinking. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, yeah. So if you were in this accident, you'd be a little concerned about, I don't want the cop. I don't want to get arrested for this. My car is totally totaled. I'm drunk as shit. And what the hell? And he may have started hearing cops coming from far away. And so what are you going to do right now, right? What are you going to do? You're going to take off to freaking anywhere. And you're going to probably go hiding. So they did check some areas, but they said there was cleanup done out here. Like there was mowing done. There was like, what did they say? So here's the strange thing. Someone drives by, but here's something to listen to too, because it's so weird. A man who had been driving down River Road spotted the overturned car and called 911. And he told the dispatcher that the car windshield wipers were moving, but he wasn't sure if there was anyone in it, and he thought they could be trapped in the car. And the dispatcher said she would send the police and the EMS to the accident. So he didn't see anybody. He just already seen the scene and nobody seemed to be there. Because we already know that he wasn't actually in his car at some point here. It says in the few minutes, he was already gone. So assuming by the time this guy drove by, this guy's already gone. Shane's gone. And they do give us a timeline here. They started searching the area at 1:30 a.m. They left the daiquiri place at 12:30, and this accident already happened, and now by 1:30, everybody's on the search. So it was within an hour. It was an hour. Yeah, they checked emergency rooms. He's not going to want to go to the emergency room. They concluded alcohol was likely a factor, and he was probably hiding out somewhere to avoid being charged with driving while intoxicated. I would say this is the most logical conclusion to the story because why else would he sound panicky on the phone? I feel like, dude, somebody cover Gubby. What the hell? But why didn't he call his brother first? They don't tell us who he tried to call or anything like that before that. So then, yeah, so the sister-in-law, I've been in the ditches, I've been in the mud, we've been on the trails, the road tracks, abandoned warehouses. They didn't find anything. Um, they conducted searches in the wooded area. They searched the nearby river. They didn't believe he disappeared due to foul play. He noted Shane had told his brother he was going to try to find a ride home. And they believe he had voluntarily walked away and would show up when he was ready. And then so they thought he was a victim of foul play or had been involved in some kind of accident after the crash, after he crashed his car. Yeah, so it was unknown what type of injuries he sustained. Oh, okay. So, I don't believe he lost his mind or had amnesia. But what could happen, because they said, um, they have determined he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. And And so some things that can happen here, not a head injury, internal injuries. So he could have had internal injuries he didn't know about. And then he's drunk on top of it. So he seems coherent. He's talking. He's afraid. And then the police start to go. So, the most logical thing on that original set off is that he took off somewhere and is probably still wherever that was. So they were asking about phone ping. I do think that's important because he could have went somewhere to kick back while they were there and was going to tell his brother, but he doesn't call his brother, right? He doesn't take off somewhere and go, hey, he has his phone. So even if he took a ride with somebody, the dude has his phone. He's not calling his brother saying, hey, I'm over here, I'm doing this. Whatever happened here, he's not capable now of calling anyone. He could have run across the freeway and went to another area. He could have done anything. Um, we had so many years pass by, he's gonna only, if that happened, he's gonna be a little harder to find. If you're talking about anything in the wild, they can remove things, scatter them around. So, I don't know about this alligator thing someone's talking about. I hope not. That's disgusting. Um, and they were saying it's a little further away, and I don't think he would run to water, but it could. I mean, here's the thing. It could happen. If you're that freaked out of getting caught by the cops, and you take off on a long trip to going, I'm going to get home just by however I need to. He could have made it. He could have went quite a bit. Maybe much further out than they think, because they're thinking he's hiding by the scene. If it was me, let me put myself in this position. I would never do this. But I had a situation where I didn't want to take the bus home. I've talked about this. I walked miles, 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 you guys. And maybe that's the whole thing to the case. Maybe the bringing me back because of the brother's weirdness is going to lead us to actually what happened here. Because he may not be involved in it. So I was just like, it had haunted me forever. I don't know why. It's the only thing that pulls me back to the case. It's a strange thing. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking and I'm thinking. And I did it myself where I didn't want to go on this bus because I didn't have my car at the time. It broke down or something. And then they were teasing me on the bus, right? And I was like, I ain't riding that bus back. So I walked from like Thousand Oaks all the way to almost Studio City. Yeah, into Studio City. I walked a really long way, you guys, because I was determined. So if I'm determined to get away from the cops and I'm drunk, I don't want to get caught. I'm going to be determined with adrenaline and all kinds of things. And I'm going to take off the best way I know how, or at least try to go back home, or at least on my way home, and figure, well, when I get to another point, I'll call my brother or something like that. So they may not be looking far enough because he may have made it quite a bit a ways where they're not thinking. And then maybe internal injuries, okay? And somehow somewhere else. So I just think it's a matter of maybe they're not looking in the right place. They didn't go far enough. And to keep searching those areas. Keep going wherever he lives, follow the trail to where his home is and continue to look in those areas. This is my conclusion on this thing because it took me a hot minute. But when the brother was talking, that's actually a legitimate action right there. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not made up. So that's what I would do. That's what I would do. And it's quite a ways from that site to his home. So you have a lot of area right here to look at. So it's just keep looking on the trails. I think that's the best conclusion to the story. I think that may be what happened. Mostly when they're saying no seatbelt. Yeah, internal injuries are pretty, you don't, he could, a lot of things with that. But he was coherent, so I don't think amnesia. But other injuries, yeah, very well could have, well, he could have got a brain injury, but it's not causing amnesia, but like some other internal bleeding could have had, yeah, car crashes are bad. I had injury even with the seatbelt on, so, mostly when you're talking like that, yeah, with no seatbelt. I couldn't imagine flipping my car with no seatbelt. Yeah, chest, shoulder, um, yeah, a lot of those areas. But yeah, you would probably bang your head up. But he was coherent. That's what I'm saying. He's coherent. He knows he's talking. His minutes are going by. He's talking. He's talking. He's now very coherent. He's doing something, but he may have other injuries that cause some other addition.